This is Modesto, my hometown. It's a city of over 200,000 people, and its largest industries are related to agriculture, in particular almonds. Or if you're one of the people who grows them, you call them almonds for some reason. If you've ever eaten an almond, then there's a pretty good chance it came from my town. Of course, my town is also known for meth, car thefts, and being the hometown of George Lucas. We like to focus on that last one. But my hometown, like many cities across the United States, is under huge financial stress. During the 2000s, the city made very expensive contracts with public sector unions, expecting economic growth to pay them off. However, the 2008 recession halted all of this, resulting in an unemployment rate that is double the national average, and so the city began to see more and more budget shortfalls. In 2011, the town elected Garrett Marsh, the owner of a local bowling alley and a two-term member of the city council, to the mayorship. His plan for solving the budget deficit was not to cut spending or to renegotiate union contracts, but to increase revenue. He hoped to bring in more taxes by annexing two neighboring communities, an unincorporated town named Salida and an area called Wood Colony, and collecting additional taxes from the people who lived there. After 3 years, this plan fell through when the residents of Wood Colony, Salida, and Modesto rallied against it. In a runoff election early in 2016, Garrett Marsh lost to challenger Ted Brandevold. This plan was motivated by a neo-feudalistic economic view. But I'm sure you're asking, what exactly is neo-feudalism? To understand that, we first must understand what feudalism was and the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, almost all economic activity was agriculture-based. If you were a king or lord, you had land. And on this land, you had people permanently living there called serfs. And these serfs would farm the land and give the king or lord a portion of their crops. And most of the time, it was a very large portion. There wasn't much of any other kind of economic activity. Artisans such as weavers and blacksmiths often worked on a lord's estate and made things for the consumption of the lord and his manor. This meant that there wasn't much in terms of far-flung trade. So in this situation, wealth is based on land, because wealth is derived from what you can abstract from the land. Because of the limited technology and scientific development of the time, there was a finite amount of wealth that could be obtained from a plot of land, which means the only way to increase wealth is to acquire more land. And if someone isn't willing to sell you their land, the only way to obtain it is to take it by force. Which is why for most of history, wars were fought over land. It was the only way to ensure the growth of wealth. Fights over land in medieval England were such a problem that most legal disputes were over the ownership of it. In feudalism, all economic activity performed was done at least partially for the benefit of the noblemen above you. If you were a peasant, then you farmed land for a lord or possibly a knight. The knight would send a portion of his wealth to the lord above him, and the lord would give a portion of the wealth acquired to the king. There are other aspects to feudalism such as labor and politics, but we are going to focus on the economics of it. Now, how does this apply to what Garrett Marsh tried to do in Modesto? Just like in the Middle Ages, where the only way to acquire more wealth was to acquire more land, the same logic was applied to a city in Central California in the 21st century. Instead of growing the wealth of the people that were already there by passing business-friendly policies, he instead just tried to increase the number of people he was collecting taxes from. The same way a feudal lord would try to increase his wealth by increasing the amount of land he controlled. In the Middle Ages, the lord had no other option for obtaining more wealth. The technology was not available to increase the yield of his harvest or to manufacture goods en masse. Our modern economy is based on production of manufactured goods. If you build a factory on a piece of land, there is little restraint to how much wealth can be produced on that finite amount of land. Improved technology allowed for the production of wealth that was not based on land. This reduced the frequency of wars, which allowed for more trade, and this is how capitalism was born. In the 21st century, many city governments treat human beings like feudal lords treated land. They believe that acquiring more or gouging them with more taxes were the only means of increasing one's wealth. But there is no excuse for this mindset when we have over 400 years of proof against it. So if your community is under threat of being annexed or is trying to annex other communities, remember that mayors today are acting like lords of the feudal ages. But instead of going to war to acquire land, they simply vote on it. If you are interested in learning about governmental systems, then click this link here, or check the description or cards for a playlist about that. Or you can click this annotation or check the description for a mystery video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.